What happens when an undercover CEO sends his mother into the heart of his company, not as a guest but as a cleaner, and what she uncovers changes everything. It was a rainy Monday morning in Chicago when Evelyn Carter zipped up a faded janitor's uniform and pulled her graying hair into a low bun. She adjusted the ID tag clipped to her chest. It read, Eva Williams, a name pulled from a story she'd once told her son, Marcus, when he was a child. Back then, it had been a pretend name, part of a bedtime game. Now it was her new identity. Evelyn wasn't just any woman walking into City Point Corporate Plaza that morning. She was the mother of Marcus Carter, CEO of Carter Tech Solutions, one of the fastest-growing IT infrastructure firms in the Midwest. Marcus had built the company from his dorm room and turned it into a multi-million-dollar empire before he turned 35. But lately, rumors had reached his ears. Whispers from anonymous employee feedback forms, quiet resignations, and customer service dips that the culture inside his headquarters was changing. Marcus wasn't the type to take gossip at face value, but he wasn't blind either, and he trusted his gut. And even more, he trusted the woman who raised him. Mom, he had said weeks earlier, over a quiet dinner at her townhouse, I need you to do something crazy. When she laughed, thinking it was a joke, he said, I'm serious. I need you to go undercover, work as a cleaner in the building for a few days. Tell me what you see, what you feel. Evelyn hadn't hesitated, so here she was now, with a mop in one hand and a supply cart in the other, stepping through the front doors of the building her son owned, pretending to be someone else entirely. The security guard barely looked up when she walked in. You the temp cleaner? Evelyn nodded. Yes, sir. From Greenleaf Janitorial. He gestured toward the service elevator. You'll start on the 3rd floor. That's operations. As the elevator groaned upward, Evelyn inhaled deeply, her nerves jittering. She wasn't used to playing spy. She'd been a school teacher for 30 years, raised a boy who turned into a mogul, but this, pretending to be invisible, was new. The elevator doors opened. The 3rd floor looked like every modern office she'd ever seen. Glass walls, muted grey carpets, rows of cubicles, and a cold hush that didn't match the energy Marcus always talked about. There was no chatter, no buzz, just keyboards clicking and the occasional cough. As she pushed her cart past cubicles, Evelyn caught glances. Some employees looked at her. Others looked through her, like she wasn't even human. Hey, a voice snapped. She turned. A young woman with a tight bun and a clipboard marched up to her. What's your name? Eva, Evelyn said softly. Eva Williams. You're late, the woman said sharply. Trash pickups are supposed to happen before lunch, not after. We've had complaints. I'm sorry, I was told, just get it done. Evelyn nodded and quietly wheeled her cart to the corner office trash bins. She noticed several were overflowing, not just with garbage, but used coffee cups, crumpled documents, candy wrappers, all scattered across the desks like no one cared. The place had a tiredness to it, no pride, no energy. As she reached under a desk to grab a fallen napkin, she heard laughter behind her. Guess the cleaning lady's got a hearing aid too, someone chuckled. She's probably older than my Grandma, another voice said. Evelyn didn't flinch. She kept moving, but her heart sank. Was this how employees at Carter Tech talked about people? Did they think invisibility came with a uniform? By lunchtime, she had made her way to the break room. It was cluttered with dishes, half-eaten sandwiches, and crumbs everywhere. She took her time wiping down the counters, trying not to cry from the ache in her back. She was used to hard work, but she wasn't used to being looked at like she was less. That's when she heard a conversation that made her pause. Did you hear what happened to Priya in accounting? One voice said. A young man, probably no more than 25. She took a sick day to care for her dad, right? Yeah. And now HR says she's under performance review. Total garbage. Typical. You take one breath, and they're ready to replace you. Evelyn quietly stepped out of the room before they saw her. She didn't want to interrupt, but she did want to remember. That name, Priya, that story. Something was off here. The rest of the afternoon blurred into a rhythm of cleaning and quiet observation. She noticed more. A middle-aged man hunched over his desk, coughing into tissues with no one checking on him. A young intern being barked at by her supervisor for asking a simple question. A woman at reception being told to put on some lipstick by a man in a suit who barely acknowledged Evelyn at all. By the time her shift ended, Evelyn rode the elevator back down feeling a mix of emotions. Sadness, anger, confusion. This wasn't the company Marcus talked about. This wasn't the workplace where people came first, like the posters on the wall claimed. She exited the building and walked to the corner of the street, where Marcus's black SUV was waiting. As she climbed in, her son turned to look at her. "Well?" he asked. Evelyn didn't answer right away. She looked out the window at the glass building glowing under the streetlights. "I saw enough," she said quietly. "And you're not going to like it." Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me everything." Marcus Carter sat alone in his home office later that evening, elbows resting on the edge of his desk, Evelyn's words echoing in his ears. She had spent over an hour recounting her first day, the sneers, the mocking laughter, the cold culture. He'd taken notes, asked questions, and tried not to let his face show the growing sense of betrayal building inside him. It wasn't just that people had been rude to his mother, it was that they'd been inhumane, dismissive, toxic. And the worst part, he hadn't seen it coming. Evelyn had offered to go back again the next day. "There's more to uncover," she said firmly. "One day is a glimpse. I want to be sure. This isn't just a few bad apples." So the next morning, she returned, back into the disguise, the uniform, the silence. This time she started on the 5th floor. Corporate strategy, supposedly the heart of innovation at Carter Tech. But the heart, it seemed, had hardened. Evelyn entered a glass meeting room to empty bins, only to hear a loud voice say, "Can we wait on that? The cleaning crew is here." "I don't want to yell over the help." She turned to apologize, but the man didn't look at her. He just sipped his coffee and rolled his eyes. She moved swiftly, in silence, her ears burning. Elsewhere, in the hallway, 2 junior employees were discussing a co-worker who had been demoted after speaking up during a team meeting. "He challenged Tony's decision," one said. "Big mistake. Tony hates being questioned, says it threatens the hierarchy." Hierarchy. Evelyn repeated the word in her mind. That evening, back at Marcus's townhouse, she didn't wait for him to ask. She walked straight to the kitchen, took a seat at the island counter and said, "You've got a rot growing in your house, baby." Marcus closed his laptop and listened. "I heard an employee was demoted for speaking up. I saw an intern humiliated in front of a whole floor. Your managers talk, like emperors, not leaders, and the rest of the staff, they're walking on eggshells." He was quiet for a long time. "Mum," he finally said, "how did I miss this?" Evelyn softened. She reached across and touched his hand. "Because you trusted the wrong people, and because sometimes power creates blind spots." The next day, Marcus made a plan. He wouldn't storm in guns blazing. That never worked. What he needed was proof, undeniable accounts, real patterns, and most importantly, a full picture before taking action. So Evelyn went back for a 3rd day. This time, she spent the morning shadowing an older janitor named Mr. Grady, a quiet man in his 60s, with kind eyes and slow hands. He didn't ask her many questions, just showed her the routine. Floors, trash, glass cleaning, and break room sanitizing. At one point, as they rested by a vending machine, Evelyn finally asked, "How long you been working here?" 8 years, he replied. "Started when my wife passed. Needed the income. Stayed for the insurance." She nodded, then added, "You like it here?" Mr. Grady hesitated. "Place used to be different," he said. "Used to feel like a family. Now? Feels like we're just brooms in uniforms. Management doesn't say, 'Good morning' anymore. HR's a ghost. Promotions go to whoever sucks up best." Evelyn felt a twinge in her chest. Ever met the CEO? He chuckled. No, he stays in the clouds. But folks say he's a good man. Just disconnected. That night, Evelyn gave Marcus a list, not of who to fire, but of who to watch closely. Names like Tony Myers, Director of Strategy; Lisa Burke, Supervisor of Operations. Names of team leaders who had reputations for fear-based control. Marcus didn't flinch. He knew what he had to do. On day 4, Evelyn returned to the building for her final day undercover. But this time, everything changed because someone had found her out. She was just about to mop the floor of the executive lobby when she heard it. 2 voices arguing in a copy room just beyond the glass wall. Look, one said. I swear that's her. I saw her photo on the news last year. That's the CEO's mom, Marcus Carter's mother. Are you sure? I'm telling you, we're being watched. Why else would some temp cleaner be this observant? Evelyn didn't react. She simply kept mopping. But an hour later, her badge deactivated at the elevator. Her cart disappeared from the janitorial closet, and a receptionist with a stiff smile said, Sorry, ma'am, you've been relieved. We've been asked to end your contract early. Evelyn didn't argue. She simply nodded and walked out the front door, head high, mission complete. But that wasn't the end, because the next day, Marcus Carter himself walked through those same doors, unannounced. No driver, no entourage, just him, in jeans and a dark blazer. And behind him, his mother, now in her own clothes, no longer pretending to be invisible. Heads turned, conversations stopped, and soon the firings would begin. Marcus Carter stood in the center of the glass lobby, his eyes slowly scanning the rows of polished desks and pristine floor tiles. The very place where his mother had been dismissed without warning now shimmered under the false light of corporate perfection. But Marcus saw through it. Every corner now felt sharp with betrayal. Evelyn stood beside him, calm but firm, her purse slung over one shoulder, no longer a cleaner in disguise. She watched the building not with resentment, but with the weary pride of a mother who'd done what she had to do. Should I call for security, sir? The receptionist, Amanda, if Marcus remembered correctly, spoke hesitantly, eyes darting from Evelyn to him. No, Marcus replied. You're going to call an emergency department-wide meeting. Right now, she froze. For the entire building. Marcus pulled out his ID badge, the same badge that had once opened every door in the building. Now, within 15 minutes, the executive auditorium was full. Staff trickled in nervously, murmuring. Some looked genuinely curious. Others already sensed what was coming. Whispers about Evelyn's identity had already started circulating the day before. When people saw her now, standing next to Marcus, chin up, their suspicions were confirmed. The CEO took the stage. He didn't use a mic. Most of you don't know me well, he began. I'm Marcus Carter, founder and CEO of Carter Tech, and for the last 4 days, my mother has been working here, undercover. Gasps. A few turned to each other. Some looked straight down at their laps. She wasn't sent here to spy. She was here to see, to understand the culture of this company, from the ground up. What she found disappointed me more than I can describe. He paused. The room was completely silent now. Marcus continued. We talk about being a family company, about putting people first. But those are just words if we don't live them. My mother was mocked, dismissed, treated like she didn't matter. But worse than that, she watched others be humiliated, ignored, bullied, not by outsiders, by some of you. There were employees now shifting in their seats, eyes twitching toward managers they knew were guilty. In just 4 days, Marcus said, she gathered enough evidence to show me that parts of this company have lost their soul. Toxic leadership, fear-based management, silenced voices. That ends today. He stepped back slightly. I've asked my mother to read a list of names. These are individuals who will be placed under immediate investigation. Some of you will be terminated today. Others will be required to meet with HR, where we will assess your behavior and the teams you've led. He handed the microphone to Evelyn. Her voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. Tony Myers, Lisa Burke, Calvin Simmons, Jennifer Rowe, Tara Lim, Paul Dennis, Sylvia Grant. As the names were read, faces paled. A few employees stood up angrily. One tried to storm out. "I wouldn't recommend that," Marcus said. "Security's already been informed." Evelyn added, "Some of you may be surprised to hear your names, but every one of you was observed. I didn't come here looking to trap anyone. I came hoping I'd be wrong. I wasn't." She turned back to her son. Marcus addressed the room once more. "I'm not here to tear this company down. I'm here to rebuild it. Starting today, every department will undergo a cultural audit. We're bringing in third-party oversight. Promotions will be frozen until we reevaluate our internal review system, and I'll be meeting personally with frontline employees in every single department over the next month." There were murmurs now, different ones. Shock was turning into cautious hope. "And to those of you who have done the right thing," Marcus added, "who treated your colleagues with respect, who showed kindness even when no one was watching, thank you. You're the reason we still have something worth saving." As the meeting ended, Evelyn stepped down from the stage. She was met by a young woman, an intern named Julia, who whispered, "Thank you, ma'am. I was starting to think no one would ever see us." Evelyn smiled. "We see you now." That afternoon, security escorted 7 individuals from the premises. HR launched formal reviews. A new ethics officer was introduced, reporting directly to Marcus. But behind all of it stood a mother's quiet courage. Evelyn returned to her home later that night, kicked off her shoes, and poured a cup of tea. Marcus joined her on the couch, visibly tired, but more present than he'd been in years. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Better than I've been in a long time." "You did the right thing." "So did you," he said, taking her hand. "I just cleaned up a mess." He smiled. "No. You exposed the truth." Outside, the city lights blinked like distant promises. Inside, a company had begun to heal. And it started with a mop and a mother's love. ACT. By the next morning, the entire dynamic inside the hotel had shifted. There was a new energy, tense, uncertain, but strangely hopeful. Word had quietly spread that something big had happened the day before. Nobody knew the full story, just whispers, something about a cleaner, a confrontation, someone important, watching everything. But in the penthouse suite, Evan Caldwell stood looking out the window, his arms folded, deep in thought. Behind him, his mother, Rose, now dressed in her usual simple clothes, no longer in the faded uniform of a janitor, watched her son silently. "You were right," Evan finally said without turning. "I had no idea what was really going on here." Rose gave him a quiet nod. "Sometimes the only way to see the truth is to get your hands dirty." They'd spent the entire night reviewing security footage, statements from staff, and most importantly, listening to Rose's first-hand account. The picture was clear now. A toxic culture had taken root beneath the surface of luxury. Downstairs, the staff gathered in the banquet hall. Managers, cleaners, front desk workers, kitchen hands, they were all called in, unsure of what to expect. Whispers turned to silence when Evan Caldwell himself entered the room, flanked by Rose. Some faces paled, others straightened up. A few looked genuinely confused. "Good morning," Evan said, his voice even but firm. "I won't take up much of your time, but there are things that need to be addressed, immediately." He stepped forward slowly, eyes scanning the crowd. "My mother recently took on a cleaning position here at the hotel," he continued. "Some of you knew her, some of you ignored her, and some of you treated her like she didn't matter at all." A tense stillness blanketed the room. Evan's jaw tightened. "I watched everything. I listened. I read reports. But nothing prepared me for the behavior I witnessed firsthand. Disrespect, intimidation, manipulation, not just toward my mother, but toward each other, toward our guests, toward this entire company's values. He paused. That ends today. A few staff members exchanged nervous glances. I'm not here to make an example out of anyone, Evans said. I'm here to clean house, not the way my mother did, but the way a company must when it forgets who it's supposed to be. He called out names, 5 of them. Managers who'd belittled staff, supervisors who'd ignored misconduct, a front desk clerk who had mocked a guest with special needs. You're all dismissed, effective immediately, Evans said. Your actions do not reflect our mission, our values, or our humanity. Gasps. Silence. Then Evan turned to the rest. But I've also seen kindness, he said, voice softening. I saw employees who tried to protect others, who showed grace in small, quiet moments, who worked hard despite being ignored. You've kept this place running, not because you were told to, but because you cared. He motioned to the side, where Rose stepped forward, holding a small envelope. This is for those who went out of their way to treat people with dignity, Evans said. Promotions, bonuses, a better path forward. Starting today, we rebuild from the ground up. A murmur of surprise ran through the room. Some employees teared up. Others simply nodded in quiet gratitude. Outside the banquet hall, as people began returning to their work, Evan and Rose walked slowly through the lobby. Do you regret doing it? Evan asked. Rose shook her head. No. Sometimes people just need to be reminded that everyone matters, even the ones they think don't. Evan smiled faintly. I needed that reminder too. They paused by the front desk. A young woman, one of the few who had stood up for Rose when she'd been berated, looked up in surprise. Evan turned to her. Thank you, he said simply. You showed strength when it counted. She blinked. I was just doing what felt right. That's exactly what we need more of, he replied. Rose smiled as they walked out into the morning light. And just like that, the hotel began to change. Not because the CEO issued a memo or because of new rules posted in the break room, but because a mother, dressed in a janitor's uniform, had dared to tell the truth. And a son had finally listened. Please share your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss together. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel to follow more inspiring stories. Thank you for joining us today.